Hello, I'm Krista Ordonez, Doctor of Physical Therapy, Pilates Instructor, and Mobility Certified Movement Specialist, bringing you today a favorite class of mine called Booty Pump. It's one of my love languages. It's actually helping people get deeper into their hip mobility, deeper into their glute activation. So this is made for those that are pretty active, that are active in the gym, out with the sports, or running, cycling, all the above, and you're not dealing with any active injury. Our goal is to improve the joint health of our hips and also deepen our activation into all glutes, all three of them, okay? So we're gonna start actually in standing and then work our way down to the ground. If you need a little additional support, meaning you don't know if you have enough hip mobility to sit comfortably on the floor, I would recommend using a yoga block. That way you can wedge it underneath your hips to give you a little bit more slack as we get into our hip mobility shortly after this. We're gonna start into our standing footwork. You're gonna go parallel here. Now I want you to spread out your toes, get some engagement of your feet into the ground. We're gonna lift our heels up and down, just a few here. Gotta get some ankle mobility warmed up, and then we're gonna work into our parallel neutral squats. Reach it forward, sit your hips back, let your knees come forward, stretch into your ankles, your hips, push to the ground, come up. Just a few, let's go for 3. And last, we're gonna stay for a bit, back to our ankles, just for 3. Lift, lower. Lift, lower, ooh, and all the way up. All right, a little bit wider, more turned out. Let's call it like 45 degrees on this external rotation. Let those knees go out while your chest stays up. So we're not letting our body come forward here. We're working on stretching out those inner thighs, deepening into our hips. Pull those inner thighs back up. Few here. Let's go for 3. And then down, stay back into your heels, chest up. 3, 2, 1, heels down, up we go. A little bit wider here, parallel into a straddle. Once you squeeze those knees, this time we're gonna just do a stretch with our hinge. Get those hips to go back behind your heels. Don't let your chest lead the way. It's all about the hips getting pulled back, right? If I was there, pulling your hips back behind you, drive those inner thighs into each other, and then drive your hips forward. All right, here we go, final time. Lengthening out those inner thighs, hamstrings, and then forward. All right, we're gonna do some hinges again, but this time in neutral position. We're gonna go to side position, so you can take a look at what we'll do. Adding your hinge first, so you're soft on your knees, your spine is straight. So this will be your core exercise as well. You stabilize that spine. Once you're in your hinge, I want you to drop into a squat. So reach forward, hips go down, just what feels comfortable for you. Push your hips and knees back. You're into your hamstring stretch again. Use your core to stabilize you as you push your hips forward. Here we go. Hinge, squat. Hinge, return. Hinge, drop to your squat. Drive it back with those legs. Push those hips forward to return. 2 more. And last, here we go. Hinge, squat, maybe getting a little bit deeper into your joints. Push it back, drive it forward. Woo. We're gonna take it to the floor from standing position, so a little bit wider. One end of your mat, we're gonna take it down to the ground. So think about a deep squat first. Try to get your hips as close as you can to the floor. Use your hands when you need to. Take your booty down to the ground, all the way to your spine. All right, getting into our bridge series here. Want your feet parallel with your knees and your hips to begin. We're gonna start with our tuck. Pull your heels back as you reach your knees forward, right? So this will be a shoulder bridge that's very neutral and straight. It won't be a yoga bridge that takes us into our spine. We're not doing that today. We're keeping those ribs down, keeping it isolated at the hips. So from the top of your bridge, I want you to think about your spine coming down one bone at a time to lower, and repeat. Here we go. Pull your heels back without moving your feet. Drive those knees forward. We're going for a double front thigh stretch. Keep your ribs connected. Feel this engagement and length across the front of your thighs, and then round through. Hopefully you feel those hamstrings working more by having that heel pull, knee reach, front thigh stretch, ribs connect. All of those things, okay? You're gonna keep it going. We're gonna stay at the top. Keep those ribs down. We're gonna do a single-sided drop here. Start with your right side, drop it down an inch, squeeze that glute, lengthen, left, drop an inch, squeeze, return, repeat. Keep it at the hips. We're doing a little pelvic tilt and return, pelvic tilt, return, 2, last, Top of your spine, round it down. All right, a little bit wider, a little bit more turned out. So this turned out position will get more of our side glutes as well. So give yourself that tuck. Keep your knees pulling out. You're continuing to still pull those heels back. Right, no pressure in your low back here. It's all in the glutes to lift. Inhale, exhale, take it down. And repeat. Check in that you're moving evenly across your spine. Both sides are lifting up and lowering down at the same time. Think of this as also a spine stretch, lengthening as you lower. Continue 2 more. Pull your heels back. Reach your knees away. Keep those knees wide. Don't let those knees come in as you bring it down. Right, we're still using those side hips. Final one, we're going to add more at the top. Tuck, lift. Stay here. Connect ribs. Lift your toes. We're going to pivot from the hips. Those inner thighs are going to pull those knees in while keeping your hips up. And then your side hips are going to pull the knees apart while keeping your hips up. Let's go. Inhale, exhale. A few more. 2. Last. Wide, stay wide, round it through with your spine. Woo, give it a hug. A little rock and roll here if you'd like to come up. And then we're going to transition into what's called our 90-90. So this will be your iconic hip mobility position. This is where if you find yourself having to lean a heavy amount away because of your tightness in your hips, that's okay. This means you need it, but I would modify using a yoga block. Yoga block, you set underneath your sits bones, your butt bones, it slacks your hips a bit, and you can do everything that we're going to do now with a yoga block. So grab that now and continue on. All right. So our goal here in 90-90 is, as best as we can, getting into 90-degree angles at the knee on both sides, and then from thigh to thigh. So the thigh to thigh is usually the hardest part. It's okay if you have to slack that back hip a little bit because you find yourself too tight and you're now cramping into your spine and you're looking like this, right? We want to be upright, shoulders over hips, pelvis as even to the floor as possible. So if you have to slack back leg to begin, that's fine. All right, so from here, we're going to work on this front leg called our lead leg. We're going to work into an external rotation of that hip. So what it's going to look like is we're going to push first this foot to the floor, an isometric engagement. So no motion with a muscular contraction. Push your foot into the ground. Feel this contraction all the way up into the side of the hip. Push heavy. Ready? Inhale, exhale. Keep on breathing while you can maintain this downward force, about 50% of your muscular contraction. Feel that engagement. 4, 3, 2, 1. We want to maintain this contraction as we go through a hinge now. So spine is straight. This becomes a core exercise. You can do 2 options. You can do a T-arm position, which is more challenging, or a cross-arm position, which is a little bit more friendly. So keeping your chin in, ribs down. Push your foot into the floor. You're going to keep your spine straight as you hinge. Your goal is trying to maintain that muscular contraction of your side hip as you go down and as you go up, right? So that front booty is stopping you from falling forward. And it's also pushing you back up. The whole time this knee is trying to stay to the ground all the way till you get to the top. Do your best to not let that knee come away from the floor. Let's try 2 more. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze that glute by pushing your front leg through the floor, heavy on that front foot. Final time. You can always intensify. Watch your spine. It's all in one piece. Right, so we are loading and lengthening hip mobility into this side hip of our lead leg. All right, so it should be like, oh, booty muscles. Good. Okay, so trail leg is going into an internal rotation. This one is usually the hardest one. So do your best to get yourself even to the floor with your pelvis, minimizing the gap of the thigh to the floor. So I'm going to bring my knee slightly forward, and then our hands will come forward. It's going to hang for a bit. Give ourselves a little bit of this tuck of our tailbones. This is a posterior tilt of our pelvis. We're intensifying our stretch by changing the position of our pelvis. Okay, so a couple of rocks here. Your stretch should be around this capsule of this trail leg, that back leg, and then hold that posterior tilt. Stay put. Now we want to do an isometric engagement. So without motion, we're doing a muscular contraction. This whole knee, foot, thigh complex is pushing into the ground, trying to keep it right here in the groin and inner thigh without it loading up on that backside. So for a lot of people, we have to slack forward, embrace our stomach, tuck our tailbone, and then pull the inner thigh through the ground. Feel this activation here and breathe. Inhale, exhale, about 50% of your muscular contraction for 4. Keep breathing. 3, 2, 1, and relax. As that relaxes, maybe you can sink it to the floor a little bit more. Then we're going to go deeper into an internal rotation. Really, maybe nothing happens. We're just here for a contraction in our glutes on the back side of our hip, like a back pocket muscular effort. So hands forward. You can slack your front leg so it's not really contributing to your tension here. Chest up, tummy in. We're going to try to peel that back foot up by spinning this inner thigh back. This takes us into an internal rotation. So the socket rotation is from our hip, not so much our back. Okay, our back isn't rocking it. Do your best, stomach up. Inhale, exhale. Let's do 4 lift-offs here. 3, 2, hold if you can. 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Woo! All right, so we're gonna bring it in, open back up your 90-90. We're gonna do a switch back and forth. So we're gonna face away from each other and then go back to each other. So starting with our trail leg, fingertips to the ground, spine up. You're gonna lift that up as much as you can. And then when you feel like you're maxed out, you're gonna bring your torso with you. Keep pulling your knees apart. Here in center point, you can have your hands to support you. Keep your chest up, your knees are still apart, and you're continuing to switch all the way over to the other side. And then we'll do the same thing, switching to the back leg to lead the way. Come through center, you're upright as much as you can. Use your hands if you need to. Keep those knees pulled apart as you switch back. One more pass through, trail leg, sternum up, pull those knees out, and return. Awesome. All right, so we're gonna bring it back to facing each other. We're just gonna swing our legs around. All right, so every side is different. See what this side feels like for you. So first we're gonna start with focus on our front leg, our lead leg. If this needs to slack a little bit by coming forward across the knee, that's fine. I do want you to think about also keeping your feet flexed. If you ever find yourself having discomfort in your knees, that means your knees are trying to take the mobility, support it more with some ankle flexion, dorsiflexion, that will engage your muscle support across your knee joints. All right, so here we are. Find yourself in this forward position. We're trying to stretch and load. Your foot starts to push into the ground. You're gonna get that isometric contraction all the way to the side of the hip. Inhale, exhale, 50%. We're here for 4, 3, 2, 1. We're gonna go into that hinge again, cross or T. Whatever you do though, I want all of this to be in one piece. So chin down, ribs down. Inhale, exhale, push your foot through the floor the whole time. You're creasing at this hip, engaging that side butt muscle to stop you from falling and to bring you back up. All the while this leg stays to the floor. Total of 4. Inhale. Exhale. Slow, slow, slow. Fire up that glute. We're lengthening and loading, so it's a stretch, but an active stretch, right? That is what makes mobility different than just stretching. Final time. We're engaging that muscle the whole time as it's learning how to be long and strong. All right, back leg, trail leg. Give it a couple of these posterior tilts of your pelvis. So that means your tailbone is coming under, your stomach is going back. We're intensifying this hip capsule stretch. This hip is going to internal rotation like we talked about. If you need to slack it because it feels a little uncomfortable, bring your hands forward. Do a couple rocks. 2, 1, stay here. All right, so we're trying to do an isometric contraction of this inner thigh. Whole leg is pulling into the floor. Think about where you're feeling it. If you're feeling on the back side, you're using too much of your back leg. We want inner thigh, groin. So play around with it. Go for 50%. Inhale, exhale. Let's go for 4. We're pulling this leg into the ground. 3, 2, 1, and relax. That'll be a contract, relax technique to try to deepen your pelvis into the floor, intensify that stretch here across that inner thigh. All right, going into this internal rotation lift, it is intense. It is not going to be big, and that's okay. We're going to continue to slack. You can bend this front knee so it's not a part of the tension that you experience here. Stomach up, isolate. So this is this pivot now, this internal rotation, this inner thigh is going to reach back to get your foot to come off. We're thinking side butt to lift. Inhale, exhale, 4, 3, 2. We're going to go for a hold if we can. And relax. Ooh, shut it down. All right, guys. So we're going to do our switch here. So back leg, trail leg, pull up, lift, sternum up, pull your knees apart through center. You should feel a double hip stretch here because your knees are pulling away from each other, maxed out, and then continue to switch over. And then repeat. If you feel like you don't need your hands anymore, you can reach your hands through as you come through center. Keep those knees apart with your muscles. And one more pass through. Inhale, exhale. Awesome, bring it in. We're gonna do what's called Mermaid here. So in Pilates, do a lot of spine love, which is great. So your goal is foot to thigh here. So you're making a triangle now. You're still having both of your feet flexed and that back knee open to about 90 degrees. Keeping your pelvis down as much as you can. You're gonna go up to keep your pelvis down as you reach your spine away. So this is more of your rib cage lifting away and then returning. When we bend towards our back foot, this is where we intensify the stretch. So think more up before you go forward. So you're not just cramming on this side spine. You're still maintaining length. Let's go one more each way. All right, we're gonna do what's called a shin box hip thrust. So this shape is called shin box in mobility, and we're gonna lift our hips up. We're gonna have to intensify that hip hinge first, push through that knee, and then see if you can use your hands to support you to come up. This is another opportunity to use that yoga block. If you feel like you don't have control, you can bring that yoga block behind you to bring the floor up. So your level is about here before you come right back up. Or you can join me taking it all the way down to the ground. Again, crease at your hips. Let your side butt slow you down. You're gonna hinge, push through that front knee, engage that side butt, bring your hips forward, and then drive it back. And all the while, your spine is one piece. Inhale, exhale, and lower. Tap to your block or the floor, and then last. Nice. All right, we're going to transition into a side kneel. So starting in kneeling position facing forward, we're going to want those hips over our knees in line with our shoulders. Fingertips are away and your opposite leg is going to go straight out, toes forward. So your heel is in line with your hand when you come down. Another opportunity for your yoga block, if you feel like you don't have enough mobility in your spine and or your hips, yoga block is underneath your hand, elevate the floor. Here we are. You're trying to stretch that inner thigh with that bottom leg, rainbow over. One time, bring your hand to your hip. Chest up. We're stacked, shoulders, hips. Your knee is in line with your hip, so keep that bottom butt pushed forward. Stabilize with your butt as you do a top leg lift for 4. Squeeze, both hips are working. And then last. From here, we're going to hold it at a circle. Point, baby circle for 3, 2, 1. Change directions. Baby circle. 3, 2, 1. Hold. Flex your foot again. Sweep forward. Crease at the hip. Squeeze your butt back to get your heel to sweep back, forth, and back. Go for 2 more. Try to use this bottom leg for support a little bit longer. And then bring it all the way up. Bring both your knees down. Over to our other side with our mermaid. Foot to thigh first. Let everything melt. Okay, here we are. We're going to do our side bend. We want to reach away from our feet. Keep your pelvis to the ground. And then when we go to our feet, that intensify the stretch here of this back leg. So think up first before over. Ribs lift, spinal side bend. One more each way. Can your hips stay down to the ground? That is the primary goal here, okay? And then back into our shin box, that triangle, hip lift or hip thrust. You want to keep your knees onto your mat. And then so crease forward, hinge forward, hands down to the ground to support you to begin. Your feet are flexed as well. Drive those hips forward. Crease your hips back. Intensify that load to slow you down. As you crease, right side booty is taking the load of your body weight as you lower down slow, as you go down and up. We're going into an external rotation load here. And then into our last inhale, exhale. All right, so then we're going to go down into that kneeling position to set up for our side kneel. So stack, hips right over knees, kickstand, fingertips away. Yoga block if necessary. Broad chest, one side bend. Straighten up, neutralize your body, hand to hip. So this hip is pushed forward, that's stabilizing, it's squeezing the whole time for 4. Lifts here. 2. Last hold, point, 3 baby circles. Ooh, change directions. Stabilize that bottom hip. And then flex your foot. We sweep, crease at the hip, squeeze the butt. Try not to let your chest drop. Total of 4. 2. Last. Bring it in, bring it down. We'll go to a 4-point position. We're going to go extra wide with our knees, but this time our feet are also going to go wide, if possible, maybe wider, almost like a W sit. You're going to go deeper into your hip rotation. Go back to what feels good. You don't have to go all the way down. Most people don't. Don't worry about it if you can't. Just see if you can give yourself an inner thigh stretch here. Deepen into your capsule. And then come right back in. We're going to do an inner thigh stretch. So give yourself some space. We're going to kickstand one leg straight out to the side, your heels in line with your hip if you can. Your goal is trying to keep your waist open though on both sides. So chest up. We're not tucking our tailbone or rounding our spine. We're keeping everything straight. Crease in that hip. Feel all those inner thigh fibers lengthen. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. We got one more. And then return. So stay in that 4-point, but then we're going to use that same leg into some motion here. That same leg is going to go bent knee. Foot is trying to stomp to the ceiling, but hold it. I want you to think about a plank with the rest of your body. Everything is even across your shoulders. You're plugged into your armpits. Your stomach is up. Hold it here. Keep your knee bent, but you're going to turn out from your glute. Chest stays up. Let that knee go high to your side, but holding your hip in this position. Return it back to start. Let's try 3 more. Plug in your armpit. Think about a plank. Fight with your core. Should be a fight, guys. Turn out and return. 2 more. Spin, turn out and return. Final time, we're going to turn out and hold. Hold it here, stay or kick out. Join me for 4. Side butts holding it. 3, 2, last, and down. Woo, sit back. We have our other side. So you can just stay where you are. I'm going to spin just more for view. And we're going to start with that inner thigh stretch. Kickstand wide, toe forward, chest up. So make sure your pelvis is even on both sides. Your waist doesn't collapse. Crease at your hip. Feel all those inner thigh fibers. Get a stretch. Inhale. Exhale. You have to be able to breathe in order to let your body release. And then into our last. All right, same leg is going to start with that bent knee lift. Plug, plank, knee up, stomp your foot to the ceiling, and then externally rotate without changing the shape of your body. Total of 4. Inhale, exhale. It's a squeeze of that side glute. And then on our last one, hold. Option to kick out with me for 4, 3, 2, and last. Ooh, bring it down. Bring it wide, knees wide, feet wide. super wide child's pose. Hips back to what you can tolerate and manage. No pinch here, we're just here for a stretch. And we're gonna take it all the way up to the top. All right, gotta add some function here, guys. It is functional flow. All right, working on our balance. If you need nearby wall or furniture like a chair, use that now. Your goal is grounded foot, opposite foot is to the toes to begin. We're soft on our knees, but our hips are gonna go back. We're gonna stay put here, chin down, ribs in. We're getting into a hamstring stretch. I want your glute to hold you here. This back leg is gonna reach further for a toe tap, forward for a toe tap, back and forth. So our goal is stabilizing, loading on this glute and hamstring here of our stabilizing leg, support leg. 2. Last, when it goes back again, we're gonna stay put. We're gonna lift that back leg up, hinge a little bit deeper because your hip is going further back behind you. Push that hip forward, return back up. And repeat. So we're gonna do a single leg here, hip hinge or deadlift. But a lot of times people just drop their chest forward. Our chest isn't leading. I want this hip to go back, okay? So float or toe tap. Hip is going back, hip is going back, hip is going back. We're creasing into that hip. Whoop. Stabilize as much as you need to. Push that hip forward. Repeat. Lengthen. This leg behind you that's floating, it's not doing nothing. It's stomping that wall behind you, so it's active. Final time. All the way up. Awesome. Other side. All right. Start with groundness. Other leg to the toe, soft on the knees. Crease at your hip, we stay put. All right, check in. Where do you feel it? Load, lengthen, hamstring, glute. All right, bent leg is gonna be tapping back and forth for 6. Our goal is stabilizing our pelvis. Don't let anything shift. Load it up, hamstring, glute, hamstring, glute. 2. Okay, it's gonna go back deeper into that hinge. Now we float, drive, up. We're gonna go back and forth for 4. So we wanna emphasize the load of our glute to bring our back leg back, stomp that foot behind you, return. It's all about this support leg doing the work. Reach that hip back. Woo! Reach that hip forward. Final time. Push. Okay, should feel that length. All right, going into a big back step lunge here. 1 foot way back. I want you to think about creasing. We're gonna work our hand down to the ground. And then if you feel like you just don't have the flexibility, it's okay to bend that knee a lot. But if you do, your knee doesn't come forward, I want your hip to go further back, okay? So from here, can we lift that back leg? Think about keeping your pelvis even to the floor. Plug your armpits, stomach up. Let's do for 4, 3, 2, last hold. We're gonna do a tap out to the side, tap back behind you, just where we came from, and repeat. Doing your best not to shift your weight away from this supported leg. Keeping that pelvis exactly where it is the whole time. Total of 4 into our final one. Bring it in, stand it up, pull up into your stomach to support your spine. Other side, this is it, guys. We're almost there. Big step back, hips back. Keep loading that backside as you bring your hands down to the ground. Bend the knee as much as you need to, but I want you heavier in your heel, heavier in your glute. Back leg lift. Squeeze, back thigh. And then hold for your 4th one, tapping for 4. Return without shifting your pelvis. Squeeze that side butt to bring it out and wide. And last. Bring it all the way back. Step in, tummy up. Woo! We're gonna drop into our deep squat, guys. Toes out. So you wanna keep your heels in line with each other. Your knees are gonna be pulling actively out from your side butt. I want you to release into your hips to go deep. Pull those inner thighs to come up. 2. Last. The goal is to bring more juice into the joints. We're gonna bring our heels closer to each other, just a hair bit wider than our hips though. We're gonna go all the way down. Just deep squat stretch. So this should be just more of a release. You can get your back to release, your hips to release. Do a little side-to-side rock for your ankles to stretch. For anyone that I work with that deals with back, hip, knee issues for any of their sports or activities or daily lives, we're always getting into the glutes, always getting into your hip mobility, pull the knees apart. I hope the same for you. Hopefully you learned something from me and that you can repeat this class as many times as you want, getting deeper into your booty pump. Thank you for joining today, and I'll see you next time.